Good afternoon and hello, everyone. My name is Rich Longo, Flycast Partners. I'd like to thank you for joining us for another webcast on endpoint and security management. Today we have two presenters, both of them being a Flycast partners. The first one being Bobby McCullough, and the second, Kyle Hamilton, SCs here at Flycast Partners. Kyle is an experienced pre-sales senior solutions consultant with extensive experience in collaborating with clients on IT strategies. He has been in the IT industry for well over 20 years and has experience in a variety of IT tools and publishers ranging from IT service management, IT asset management, and IT operations management. Kyle's experience from multiple types of positions in the industry allows him to have the bigger picture in mind when helping organizations with their IT needs. Now, Bobby has well over 2 decades of selling, implementing, and supporting a variety of solutions, including IT service, operations, financial, utilization, asset, infrastructure, change management, incident, expense management, integration, and IT operations analytics. He's configured demonstration systems using JSON file ingestion through application API in Python. Bobby has added value in multiple product engagements, providing overall solution views and clarity. His extensive experience in lean methodologies and proven record of designing and implementing more efficient and cost-effective procedures and technologies is invaluable. Before we get started, let me introduce Flycast Partners. Flycast Partners offers best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, IT security, enterprise service management, workload automation spaces, all using ITIL best practice. Now, our professional services team, they have well over 5,600 professional service engagements, both on-site and remote. And as a company, Flycast Partners has well over 1,200, almost 1,300 regular customers throughout the North American continent. I encourage you to reach out to us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Or visit our website. We have IT experts standing by Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. They're happy to answer any questions you have, get you data sheets, white papers, help you with that training that you might need. Find some additional remote administration services or tech support. Please reach out to them Monday through Friday during normal business hours. They are happy to just chat with you if you wish, or you can email us at info@flycastpartners.com. I'd also like to remind everyone about our weekly raffle. It is open to everyone. Enter as often as you like each and every week to win a Bluetooth speaker, 25-watt, pretty high quality Bluetooth speaker, I might add. And then we have a grand prize raffle for $500 towards lunch for your organization for any of those of you that are our customers. And this is all in celebration of our 10-year anniversary. So please go to our website and check it out. Without further delay, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to none other than Bobby and Kyle. Bobby, it is all you, sir. I'll let you share.
So today we want to talk a bit about endpoint management, really from a security perspective, what you're able to provide with security from an endpoint management perspective. And so the first step in security is knowing what you've got, and knowing what you've got, excuse me, comes from discovery. And so Kyle, why don't you tell us a bit about the network view here and the discovery information on the screen?
Sure. Well, there's really two components to discovery. The first is just identifying a master list of what you have to do within the estate. Understanding the switches and the routers and the printers and all of those things you have attached to your network that are important to be monitored from a security perspective. Now, you might not be doing anything directly through endpoint management with the switches or routers or the printers, but having a good, thorough understanding of everything that's out there is going to help you understand the threat landscape that you have to deal with, whether you're dealing with them through one product or several products, depending upon vendor and type of device. Knowing what you have is really the first part to being able to secure the environment. So, being able to sweep the network on a regular basis, identify everything, And then for those devices that you have the capability of managing, your Windows, your Linux, your Mac OS devices, if you're managing mobile devices like iOS and Android, then being able to put an agent or a profile, depending upon the device, out there so that you can lock them down, make sure they're secure, and they're not roaming about in the field without the appropriate patches, without the appropriate application versions they should have, so that everybody's in sync and in compliance. And the inventory and discovery process is your way of verifying that, making sure that everybody has what they're supposed to and they're configured the way that they're supposed to be.
So Kyle, here's where we can drill into the inventory on any specific inventory item and see all the information available about that item, all the hardware information, software information as well, all about that item. Very helpful when you're troubleshooting. If you've got a service desk, this is good information to integrate over with the CMDB to help them with that area. So we've covered discovery. So next would be patching. If we understand what's in our environment, then we also want to know how up to date are those things that are in our environment. Kyle, I'll let you continue on patching now.
So as mentioned, I mean, with patching, or with going back to discovery and the inventory, really, with collecting that good inventory of what you have within the estate, part of that is not just hardware and configuration data. It's also the patch information. What are they missing? What should they have? What's available? So that you can come up with a dashboard or a report that you can easily run against the environment to show where those security gaps exist, where those holes exist. Because of course, probably in terms of security, the most important part of that inventory is going to be, collecting a good patch inventory, because this is where all of the, the ne'er-do-wells, are going to be looking for, or going to be the patches that close those doors and close the gaps. So if you've got devices out in the field, whether they be laptops, mobile devices, what have you, or even within the data center, that are exposed and don't have the appropriate patch levels, service pack levels, that's where you're going to find those intrusion points and those open doors and windows for people to crawl in and take control or do whatever they want to do. So being able to accurately identify within your environment not only what you have, but what kind of patches does it have? Are the applications patched? Is the operating system patched to the level that it needs to be, so that you have a good understanding of what those exposures are and can make rational business decisions as to how to mitigate that risk, or whether you're willing to live with that risk. But getting a good inventory and collecting this patch and compliance data is what's going to allow you to understand what those exposures are, where the gaps are, and then of course through the endpoint management agent, being able to close those gaps so you can remediate those risks, not just being able to identify what's missing, but then be able to resolve and patch those devices so you can close those security holes so that you don't have exposure. So the first part is, getting visibility into it, which is through that inventory process, being able to build dashboards and reports to allow you to drill into that data and see where those gaps are, where those security holes exist, so that you can then use, those desktop agents, those endpoint agents, to then install the appropriate security patches, so that when you're looking at something like this, you hope that, everything's in the green. Typically, the less red, less yellow that you see, the better off you are. With the endpoint management solution, it's designed not just for the OS, but things like Adobe and Google and Citrix and Firefox and other third-party apps that you use on a day-to-day basis, that you may be allowing the end users to install. They're going to open up a browser and go download another browser. And if you're not in control of that environment, if you're not discovering that environment, then that's introducing the risks and the security holes through those applications that they're installing. So, having visibility to that's the first, big key to being able to address it and remediate it.
So, Kyle, I think the next item with regard to security is going to be packages. How packages allow you to define what's available, and then make that content available. Let me jump to my other screen here while you talk about this one.
So very much the same vein as patching. As just mentioned, a lot of times end users are given the authority or the permission to be able to go and install applications on their own, whether those be installed manually, CDs and DVDs or downloads. Your ability to control that is critical to being able to make that endpoint secure. What you want to do is restrict the end user from being able to go and, let's say, willy-nilly download whatever they want whenever they want it. You want them to have, number one, pre-approved versions. You don't want them going out and downloading it from, some BitTorrent site where it could be injected with malware. You want to get it from, reputable sites, preferably the vendor. You want to make sure they have the right version, that they're not running, a version that's 3 years old or 2 versions behind that may have identified problems that have been corrected. So having the ability to manage the application stack on an endpoint is just as important as, talk about patch management, which is where a lot of the security focus ends. But you may be, deploying all the patches that are available for Microsoft, for Windows, or for Apple. But if you're not patching that Google browser, if you're not patching, that Adobe Acrobat reader install, then that's another, threat vector, security vector that you're leaving open for somebody to potentially attack. They're not only going to poke holes in the operating system, but they're going to poke holes in the applications and things that you're downloading and installing, or potentially the end users are downloading and installing. So having tools like, an endpoint kiosk, like you see on the screen here, gives you the ability to provide the end users with the ability to get the pre-approved versions, downloaded from, the vendor sites that have been vetted, hardened, secured, so that they still have access to be able to, click and download what they want, when they want it. But you have the ability to control it in such a way so that you're not introducing the malware and you're not introducing outside threats into the environment. Much more controlled, situation where you're providing the download menu versus some third party on the internet.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kyle. That's something that getting good malware-free installation and update files have been an issue for some organizations this past year. So that's very, very important. I want to talk a minute about imaging. Let me see, Kyle, can you direct me here?
It's going to be under distribution.
There you go.
And then go to rollout projects. There should be something in here for us to look at. Yeah, there we go. And I like to show this here because when you talk about OS imaging or OS deployment, it's typically not done in a siloed fashion. You're not just worried about deploying the operating system, because that just gets you the bare minimum to a desktop. What you want to do is you want to make, that endpoint, you want to make that end user ready to work. And so even though you talk about OS imaging as a component, that's really typically the start or the foundation that you're laying down for everything else to build upon. What Bobby's got up here on the screen is what's referred to as a rollout project, where it not only involves deployment of the OS, but in addition to deployment of the operating system, which could be something brand new out of the box that you've just received. It could be a device that's problematic, and just easier to re-image the device and get it back in a working state than it is to continue troubleshooting, trying to figure out what's been modified or changed. Or it could be just part of a typical upgrade or migration cycle to a new OS or new hardware, new vendors. You want to be able to easily manage those things because, again, just like with patching, just like with software packages, application installs, getting the OS image laid down in a proper fashion, it's going to make sure that you've got a secure environment from the minute somebody's capable of logging into that device and is capable of connecting to the network. So you want to have control of it from minute one. You don't want to have the situations, even worse, than somebody downloading an application like Adobe from the internet or Google browser, would be for them to go and grab, some beta version of Windows or some seeded version of, Mac OS that's out there and attempt to install that on their own. So in the same way you control application versions, you want to make sure that the operating systems are approved, that they're not using, a home version of Windows when they should be using the professional or enterprise version, things of that nature. But also to make sure that once the operating systems roll out to that endpoint, that they get the right patches, they get the right applications, and everything's configured for that user. So while OS deployment is a key component to making sure that every device within your network that's on the network is running an operating system that has that endpoint agent installed, so that you don't have devices out there that you don't have control of, that you can't patch and make sure that have the right patches and the right applications, and make that part of a project within something like endpoint management, so that can be completely automatic. Everything from the operating system getting installed to making sure that then the right applications get installed, and then making sure that the operating system and the applications that you've just laid down all get the appropriate patches and are running at the correct levels, which should be reflected in your inventory. Then you've got the ability to ensure that your environment's secure and everybody's running in a compliant state, both from a hardware perspective and software perspective.
Kyle, tell us a bit about what we can do with capturing images from things like virtual servers and things like that.
So you have the ability to leverage. I mean, if you want to capture a virtual image, and deploy snapshots. If majority customers now are getting away from monolithic images where they're trying to build everything into an image. You want to break it down to just its core component, just the OS itself, and really just your management agent, so that everything else can be applied to the operating system based on, whether it's that device type or the operating system being deployed or that user ID or the department they work in, being able to make sure that operating system that has the correct working environment. If they're a part of accounting, they need certain applications. Those applications need certain patches. You want to make sure they get those. If they're in the legal department, whole different set of applications, whole different set of patches those users need.
Yeah.
So you want to set it up in the environment up in such a way so not only the software and the hardware that's out there in the environment, but being able to then leverage things like connection to Active Directory, so that as users get added into the environment and made a part of the accounting group or that legal department, that all the configuration needed to make sure that endpoint has the right OS, the right applications, the right patches, everything that user needs to serve in that role becomes completely automated. And you're not having to spend cycles worrying about, do they have the shortcut they need on their desktop, or do they have the VPN client that they're going to need to work from home, but being able to ensure that all those things get installed and that's accurately reflected in your inventory.
Yeah. So Kyle, the last item we've got is really remote management. So let's talk a minute about what you're able to do remotely. Obviously remote control, but what you're able to do provisioning wise, and just the different things you can control from a remote perspective on these devices.
Well, remote control can come in two different varieties, really. Those situations where you need to either view something that the end user's attempting to do, or you need to see the screen to navigate yourself directly, or just situations in which you need to make some change to the device. You don't necessarily need to see it on the screen, but you need to have a way to affect a change, whether that be updating, deleting a local file, changing a registry key value on that, endpoint or server, or starting and stopping, some running process. So in addition to being able to remote control into a device, being able to actually create a set of commands that can be executed against that device, so that those typical troubleshooting steps that you go through when a user calls, or maybe you have some kind of an outage or event that's identified through monitoring, you're going to go through, or those subject matter experts will go through their typical troubleshooting steps. They're going to attempt to log into the device. They're going to ping it. They're going to trace route it. They're going to, attempt to connect through a certain port on a certain router, right? And make sure that it's visible and that it responds. And if they go through those steps and, depending upon the results, then they're going to take certain actions. So you can have it not only set up so that you can execute and, perform the pings and the trace routes and that troubleshooting, through the management console, but also to be able to automate those pieces.
Sure.
So rather than having to run the manual ping or do the trace route, being able to have those things automatically kick off as needed, when you get those alerts or notifications, so that you're able to begin your troubleshooting already having the output and the response of, the ping and the trace route, so that service desk staff and, your network administrators, server admins are able to respond to, incoming issues and tickets and incidents that they're fielding with all the information already provided, rather than having to log into the console and go to the command prompt and do those things manually. So there's ways not only through here to be able to help streamline it, put it all in one place so that you can get all the data without having to hop back and forth and in and out of remote consoles, but to be able to have it proactively do some of those things for you, so that and you're able to start the troubleshooting process 3 or 4 steps in, rather than having to go through all of those things you know you're going to do each and every time anyway.
Sure. Good stuff, Kyle. So let me take a moment here before we finish to talk about uh, what you're able to get from the system once you're managing those aspects of security that we've been talking about. So Endpoint Manager is an endpoint solution. It provides security through those areas that we've discussed, but it also can be really a linchpin tool platform within your IT department, because it's going to not only discover those devices, but it's going to be able to pull back information like your warranty information, so that you understand when those warranties are expiring. So it really allows you to populate your CMDB so that your service desk can do root cause analysis. It gives you all the data that you need for the discovery side, to do asset management as well. And service desk and asset management are really two of the first steps in securing your environment. Making sure that changes happen in a orderly fashion, understanding what's in your environment, and managing those things that are in there. So really, Ivanti Endpoint Manager really can provide not only security for your environment, but it can also provide some of the core data sets that are needed for asset management and service desk management as well. And Rich, that's really all we had planned today.
I want to thank both you and Kyle for a great presentation. And folks, there's a lot of information they covered today. So if you do have any questions whatsoever about anything that was covered, I encourage you to please reach out to us. Call us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Or you can email us at info@flycastpartners.com. Better yet, go ahead and chat with us live Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. I want to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy day to join us. Remind you all to enter our raffles. Go to our website, check out our weekly raffle and our grand prize raffle for customers. And Kyle and Bobby, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.